The Senate will come back to order. The Senate will come back to order. Will the Secretary read the caption of House Bill 277, please?
House Bill 277 by Representatives Carson of the 46th and others. A bill will be titled Enactment Title 33 of the OCGA relating to insurance so as to allow goodwill from insurer acquisitions to be treated as an asset, to allow mutual insurers to charge policyholder dividends directly to surplus and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor offers the following substitute to House Bill 277. A bill will be titled Enactment Title 33 of the OCGA relating to insurance so as to allow goodwill from insurer acquisitions to be treated as an asset, to allow mutual insurers to charge policyholder dividends directly to surplus and for other purposes. That concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th to speak to House Bill 277.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I bring HB 277, which does, as the caption says, it allows insurance companies to count goodwill as a part of their assets. Currently, they're not allowed to do that. The second thing that it does is allows a mutual insurer to pay dividends out of their surplus rather than paying it out of their profits for the year. So this will make us. Both of these things are things that are happening in the insurance industry with our competing states, and this will set up our insurance companies that are based here in Georgia in a more competitive position. I'll yield for any questions.
You have no questions. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Chair hears none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass by substitute? Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the senator from the 3rd for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 37.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 37 by Senators Ligon III and others, a bill be titled enactment Article 2 of Chapter 5 of Title 13 of the OCGA relating to the statute of frauds so as to clarify that a mutual agreement to modify or alter an existing promise, agreement, contract, or commitment that is subject to the statute of frauds shall itself be in writing and subject to the statute of frauds and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 37, a bill be titled enactment Article 2 of Chapter 5 of Title 13 of the OCGA relating to the statute of frauds so as to clarify that an agreement to modify, alter, cancel, repeal, revoke, release, or rescind a promise and for other purposes. That concludes the order.
The chair recognizes the senator from the 3rd to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is essentially the same bill that we voted out. The House made is really a correction to a grammatical error, which I believe helps the clarity of the bill. On line 28, we added the words "such agreement" to this. And if you remember, we're just making clear that an agreement to cancel a contract which must be in writing under the statute of frauds itself must be in writing. I'll be glad to answer any questions, Mr. President.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? The chair hears none. The senator from the 3rd has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 37. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 55, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 37. Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 60.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 60 by Senator Martin of the 9th and others, a bill be titled enactment Part 15 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to miscellaneous provisions under the Quality Basic Education Act so as to provide for guidelines and other relevant materials to inform high school students participating in interscholastic athletic activities about the nature and warning signs of sudden cardiac arrest and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 60, a bill be titled enactment Part 15 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to miscellaneous provisions under the Quality Basic Education Act so as to provide for guidelines and other relevant materials to inform students participating in interscholastic athletic activities about the nature and warning signs of sudden cardiac arrest and for other purposes. That concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, this is the sudden cardiac arrest bill that we passed a few weeks back. It deals with making sure we have more awareness in our coaches, our participants, and our parents for sudden cardiac, the warning signs of sudden cardiac arrest in our young athletes that participate in interscholastic activities. The only change really in here, just a couple small minor things. The main thing they changed was that we're going from 6th to 12th grade because interscholastic sports begin in 6th grade. So we moved that up to 6th grade, and I'll yield for any questions.
You have a question. The chair recognizes the senator from the 34th for a question.
Will the senator yield?
Of course.
So the 6th grade, it starts middle school then, is that correct?
That is correct, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You have no more questions. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the motion? Chair hears none. The senator from the 9th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 60. All those in favor signify by voting yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 53, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 60. Chair recognizes the lonely Rules Chairman for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President, for recognizing me. Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute of Senate Bill 77.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 77 by Senator Moles, the 53rd, and others. A bill will be titled and Act Amendment Chapter 3 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to state flags, seal, and other symbols so as to provide additional protections for government statues, monuments, plaques, banners, and other commemorative symbols and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 77. A bill will be titled and Act Amendment Chapter 3 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to state flag, seal, and other symbols so as to provide additional protections for government statues, monuments, plaques, banners, and other commemorative symbols and for other purposes. That concludes the order.
The chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. That is an old tradition run into the well in the last 2 days. Okay. Senate Bill 77, it is a monument bill. All my friends on both sides of the aisle. The only change that the House did was they allowed a private property owner to move the monument around to have a better position. That's it. Mr. President, I'd be delighted to yield the well.
You have a question.
Okay.
Do you yield?
Yes.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the gentleman yield?
Certainly.
Senator, is this your legislation about further protecting all monuments, including Confederate monuments?
Well, my part of the bill does not include that because it's already part of state law. Mine is all monuments, and I want to thank this body for adding civil rights monuments and your provision about allowing governments to put a descriptive monument up beside it if they choose.
So, if I repeat, this protects all monuments, including Confederate monuments. Yes?
This bill protects all monuments, and existing language does protect all military monuments.
Thank
Thank
Senator.
you. I yield the well. Thank you very much for your agreement. Have a nice day.
The senator has yielded the well. Any other senators wish to speak to the motion? The chair hears none. The senator from the 53rd has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 77. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 33, the nays are 17, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 77. Chair recognizes the senator from the 52nd for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 91.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 91 by Senator Hostetler of the 52nd, a bill be titled enactment code section 20-3-250.3 of the OCGA relating to educational institutions exempted from application of part relative to non-public post-secondary educational institutions as provided for an exemption for dental schools and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 91, a bill be titled enactment code section 20-3-250.3 of the OCGA relating to educational institutions exempted from application of part relative to non-public post-secondary educational institutions so as to provide for an exemption for orthodontic schools meeting certain criteria and for other purposes. That concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 52nd to speak to his motion.
This bill that we passed out put the Georgia School of Orthodontics on the same parity as the other private medical schools and dental schools that have been in the past in requiring only one accreditation. In this case, it would be by code of the Council on Dental Accreditation and not the local accreditation. The change here was that there had been a request that their surety bond be increased from $300,000 to $450,000. Everybody was in agreement, and so we changed that and upped their bond amount. If there's no questions, I'll yield the well.
You have no questions. Does any other senator wish to speak to the motion? The chair hears none. The senator from the 52nd has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 91. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 91. Chair recognizes the senator from the 45th for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 115.
Will the secretary please read the caption?
Senate Bill 115 by Senators Unterman of the 45th and others, a bill we titled enactment Article 2, Chapter 34 of Title 43 of the OCGA, relating to the Medical Practice Act of the State of Georgia, so as to provide for telemedicine licenses for physicians licensed in other states to engage in the practice of medicine with patients in the state through telemedicine and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 115, a bill be titled enactment Article 2 of Chapter 34 of Title 43 of the OCGA, relating to the Medical Practice Act of the State of Georgia, so as to provide for telemedicine licenses for physicians licensed in other states to engage in the practice of telemedicine with patients in the state through telemedicine and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 45th to speak to her motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I bring before you the substitute to Senate Bill 115. As you recall, this is the Medical Practice Act, revising it to include telemedicine. There is a few changes to it. They wanted more purview of the Medical Composite Board to have over the licensing divisions. This is for people in other states, practitioners in other states, so that they can practice telemedicine in the state of Georgia. We agreed to that change. Also, in addition, if you look on Section 3, they added a new edition of the revision of the vaccine protocol agreement for pharmacists. We're having problems. When that bill was originally written, the pharmacists were included in the Board of Health regions, and that presented a problem because if you work for a major drugstore, you may be working in different regions of public health departments. So this makes it a statewide vaccine protocol agreement. I'll be glad to answer any questions on it.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I yield the will and ask for your favorable consideration of substitute to Senate Bill 115.
Any other senator wish to speak to the motion? The chair hears none. The senator from the 45th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 115. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 115. Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th for a motion.
Mr. President, I move the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 212.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 212 by Senators Martin of the 9th and others, a bill be titled enactment Code Section 40-5-27 of the OCGA relating to examination of applicants so as to revise the criteria by which the Department of Driver Services shall authorize certain licensed driver training schools to administer the on-the-road driving skills testing and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 212, a bill be titled enactment Code Section 40-5-27 of the OCGA relating to examination of applicants so as to revise the criteria by which the Department of Driver Services shall authorize certain licensed driver training schools to administer the on-the-road driving skills testing for other purposes. That concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the bill we passed a few weeks ago that deals with driver's training and then taking the online courses. The House made a couple changes that actually, quite frankly, simplified the language and made it a lot better. You can take a classroom or online driver training course licensed by the department. You must do 6 hours of private in-car instruction provided by the licensed instructor employed by the licensed driving school administered such on-road driving skills test. And then finally, another section dealing with people who are 18 years or older that do not require the training. They just have to do the 6 hours of private in-car training. I'll yield for any questions.
You have no questions. Does any other senator wish to speak to the motion? The chair hears none. The senator from the 9th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 212. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 48, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 212. Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th again.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate agree to House substitute to SB 108.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
Senate Bill 108 by Senator Martin of the 9th and others, a bill be titled and act to amend Part 2 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA, relating to competencies and core curriculum, so as to require courses in computer science in middle school and high school and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 108, bill be titled and act to amend Part 2 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA, relating to competencies and core curriculum, so as to require courses in computer science in middle school and high school and for other purposes. That concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th to speak to his motion.
Thank you again, Mr. President. SB 108 will require high schools to eventually require high schools to give at least offer one course in computer science. We all know how important computer science is, especially in the 21st century economy. So this is a good step in the right direction. The changes the House made were to actually push this requirement back another year to allow for more time. We've actually funded grants for professional development to make sure that the teachers are prepared, that the schools have the teachers they need for this. In addition, they put more language in there that made sure that a offered course would include something that is proctored using the virtual school, and they can also partner with technical schools, colleges, dual enrollment, and such to meet this requirement. I will yield for any questions.
You have no questions. Does any other senator wish to speak to the motion? The chair hears none. The senator from the 9th has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 108. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 108. Secretary has informed me that a supplemental rules calendar has been distributed across the chamber, and each of you should have that on your desk. Chair would like to recognize the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent that the following bill be engrossed, HB 85.
The Majority Leader has asked for unanimous consent that House Bill 85 be engrossed. Is there objection? There's objection. Would you like to speak to the motion? He waves. Would you like to speak to the objection? He waves. All those in favor of the motion will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Just my copy? No, that's your copy. You'll give me the... On the motion, the yeas are 35, the nays are 19, and the motion has prevailed. What's the number on that? House Bill 85? and House Bill 85 is engrossed. Mr. Secretary, will you read the caption of House Bill 478? We're going back onto the calendar.
House Bill 478 by Representative Ballinger of the 23rd, a bill be titled and act to amend Article 8 of Chapter 5 of Title 49 of the OCGA relating to the Central Child Abuse Registry so as to provide improvements to the operation of the Child Abuse Registry, to provide definitions, provide for notices of abuse allegations, provide for reporting abuse cases to DFACS offices, and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Judiciary offers the following substitute to House Bill 478. Bill will be titled and act to amend Article 8 of Chapter 5 of Title 49 of the OCGA relating to the Central Child Abuse Registry so as to provide improvements to the operation of the Child Abuse Registry and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair would like to recognize the senator from the 42nd to speak to House Bill 478.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill updates the Child Abuse Registry. The registry is a list of people that have had a substantiated case of child abuse against them. The registry is checked by centers licensed by the Department of Early Care and Learning. It makes Georgia's children safer while being fair and equitable to those whose names appear on the registry. It is supported by the Barton Law Center for Children at Emory Law School, the Georgia Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia, and the Division of Family and Children's Services. So, Mr. President, if there are questions, I'm happy to answer them, but if not, I will take my seat.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for favorable consideration on HB 478.
Any other senator wish to speak to the bill? Chair hears none, and the question's on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none, and the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass by substitute? The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the starting to get a little more popular senator from the 53rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate insist on its substitute to House Bill 264.
Mr. Secretary, please read the caption.
House Bill 264 by Representatives Werkheiser 157th and others. The bill will be titled and act to amend Article 4 of Chapter 5 of Title 21 of the OCGA relating to public officials' conduct and lobbyist disclosure so as to provide that any natural persons undertaking or to promote or oppose any matter before a local coordinating entity regarding the emergency medical systems communication program are subject to transparency and lobbyist disclosure laws and for other purposes. That concludes the order.
The senator from the 53rd has moved that the Senate insist on its position for what? Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd to speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you know, this is the ambulance bill. We talked about it earlier, where it's got all this wonderful stuff in. We need to bring them to their knees in a conference meeting, and that's why we insist on our position to put the transparency language back in and other things. Mr. President, I yield the well.
Senator has yielded
Have a nice
well.
day.
Any other senators wish to speak to the motion? The chair hears none. The senator from the 53rd has moved that the Senate insist on its position to substitute to House Bill 264. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and the Senate has insisted on its position. Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate insist on its substitute to HB 324.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
House Bill 324 by Representative Gravely of the 67th and others, a bill we titled Enactment Chapter 12 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to offenses against public health and morals, so to provide for the production, manufacturing, and dispensing of low THC oil in the state and for other purposes. That concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th to speak to his confident motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I need your help. I need us to stand strong, and we need to walk in there and show them what we're going to do, and we need to do it well, because this is for the kids. Thank you.
Any other senators wish to speak to the motion? The chair hears none. The senator from the 28th has moved that the Senate insist on its position for substitute to House Bill 324. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and the Senate has insisted on its position. We are going back to the rules calendar. We're going back to the rules calendar. Mr. Secretary, please read the caption of House Bill 288.
House Bill 288 by Representatives Powell, 32nd, and others, a bill we titled Enactment Article 2 of Chapter 6 of Title 15 of the OCGA relating to clerks of the Superior Courts, so to revise the sums that the clerks of the Superior Courts are entitled to charge and collect for filing documents and instruments pertaining to real estate or personal property and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 3rd to speak to House Bill 288.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 288 streamlines and simplifies the process and cost for recording deeds in our deed record rooms in our courthouses. And it does this by having a flat fee of $25 for all deeds to secure debt and other documents. Some of the tax FIFAs are charged at a lesser rate, and then it caps the fees for filings of maps and plats at $10 per map or plat. And this is supported by our clerks of Superior Court. They do have to spend a lot of time counting each page to determine how the fees are to be calculated. Frequently there are errors, and they have to spend their time sending the deeds back. So it's a good piece of legislation, and it'll bring more efficiency to our courthouse. I'll be glad to answer any questions, Mr. President.
You have no questions.
Okay, I yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none, and the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 13th for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. All the members of the state and local government operations, we will have a meeting immediately. As soon as we recess, please come up to the mez. We have one bill to hear. Shouldn't take us too long. Thank you.
The Senate will stand at ease until 5:30. We'll stand in recess until 5:30.